Hello, thank you so much for joining me on the Business Spotlight, which is all about inspiring you. Inspiring you, maybe you're dreaming of leaving that 9 to 5, you've got an idea, or you want to actually use your own talent, your passion to create a business. Maybe you're already doing it, but you just want to be inspired, maybe a little pivot or something like that. Well, here is a fabulous, talented woman, Kate O'Moore, brand expert and owner of Maker. I'm going to put her business under the spotlight, and you betcha she is going to inspire you. So, welcome to the Business Spotlight, Kate. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, hey, my pleasure. All of my pleasure. So, for people who don't know you, tell me, what do you do?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a brand expert, which means that I create brand identities for companies. I help them to develop their brand as a whole, as well as the graphic design assets that come with building the brand and help them communicate that really well, and just help them elevate their brand from where they are to where they want to be.
Amazing. And tell me, so is there a specific type of client that you enjoy working with, or type of business or organization that knocks down your door?
Well, lucky for me, it's actually a huge, great mix of clients that I work with. And I think that keeps things interesting from my perspective anyway. So it's a mix of medium Irish businesses, public bodies, as well as corporate. And then on the kind of more passion side, I work with smaller businesses. And really the common denominator is just having about good chemistry with the client and for them having that strong value of design so that we can get a great outcome.
And has it evolved? Like, how long have you been in business now, and how has that journey evolved, or how has that type of client evolved for you?
Yeah, naturally over I'm in business nearly 9 years now, Elaine, since 2016. So in the beginning, I think when you're setting up a business, you have to do the footwork and you have to kind of work with everybody to understand who your client really is, particularly as a service business. As a product business, you almost need to be aware of who that client is a lot earlier on. But I think as a service business, I've certainly evolved who I work with and the type of work that Maker does, certainly because I think for me, like I said, it's about having that alignment of the valuing design and that good chemistry. And that has to be there from the beginning for the project to be successful.
Yeah, cool. Um, what do they love about working with you? I mean, I've worked with you, and you did some gorgeous work for me back when I was evolving Enchanted Yoga to begin with, Elaine, and it's still out there, Kate. It's still out there. But tell me, so I could tell everybody what I loved about working with you, but tell me, what do other people say? What do other people say about what the experience is like?
I think overall, it's that really strong communication, really good communication throughout the projects. And I suppose the effort that I go to really understand the client. So I'll often hear in the feedback that the client really felt like that I really understood them and understood their business very well, um, as well as the creativity that I'm bringing to the table. So it's all around quite a well run ship from initial communication to final deliverables. And yeah, it's just a well run ship throughout, essentially.
Yeah, awesome. And like, is there a common issue that crops up? Or not, like, not so much, even just to clarify that question, it doesn't have to be during the project, although it could be, because maybe something does happen that maybe people have an idea in their head, but
Mhm.
then like you're the brand expert, so maybe something happens in the process, Or
Mhm.
is there something that people come to you with that they're like, God, like this is an issue, and my business can't succeed because I just can't get past this without someone else's help. Like, is there something that you go, oh yeah, here we go?
There is, and in when I'm networking and things, I see it a lot, and I actually end up giving people consultations, live consultations when I'm talking to people. But there's a huge issue of a lack of clarity with people's brands, and when they're wondering why something isn't working, um, I 100% of the time it's because there's some missing link that they haven't thought about along the chain. Um, Particularly, have they considered properly who they're communicating with? Does their brand suit their audience? Things like that. So I help, I predominantly help clients to actually get clarity on that. And once the penny drops and the pieces click together, they feel much more empowered and clear about how to actually grow their brand. And I was speaking to a lady recently who she wanted to sell beauty products and fashion on one platform, which is very possible, but she was trying to do it under one she was trying to do it under one platform, and I was trying to explain that they had different audiences and that they needed to be really thought through where they both sat together and how they worked together so that she could sell both products. Um, so there was a lot of clarity needed there, but the issue with that person was they weren't selling. And you know, you can think, why isn't this selling? Why isn't this selling? Actually, if you step back, step way back, and you figure out who your audience is and how your brand can help communicate directly to that audience, it's actually much, much easier.
Yeah, wow, so fascinating. And I know, and this is back in 2021. I remember going through the process with you, and I remember just what you just said about the brand suiting the audience. I remember us having discussions around colors, and you were like, listen. I don't know that the colors that you are communicating with are the colors for your audience, and you were dead flipping right. Fancy that.
Yeah,
And
shocking.
so like the color scheme for Begin with Elaine, doesn't so much represent me, but it certainly represented and was so much more attractive for my then clients. So yeah, and it can be a small adjustment like that that can just so help. So yeah, I can imagine. And I would say that it must be interesting having the personality that you have. You need to have a pretty resilient, kind, compassionate, but firm
Yes,
personality to
yes,
be
yeah.
able to give, as in I do, indeed I know from giving my own clients advice, to deliver that news, because you're
And
trying to help them succeed. Yeah,
it can be
so
hard when someone has a vision in their head of exactly what they want, but you have come to an expert for advice, and you know you wouldn't necessarily challenge a solicitor on their advice, etc. So but like I said, it has to be a good alignment and they have to trust you for it to work.
yeah.
um but yeah, no, you have to have some tough conversations and say that maybe bright yellow isn't the perfect color for this or whatever. I've just realized your brand is yellow now, so I didn't mean
No,
that.
and that's it does work for me for
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
do now.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I you were helping me transition from a kids yoga business. So I think that's why you
Yes,
went to Bright Yellow because you're dead right.
yes,
Into a more like feminine, more the purchaser was still adult in terms of
yes,
the
yeah.
kids yoga business, but it still was okay to have more primary colors to
Mm,
visually represent children. But then when it transformed and added on the pregnancy yoga and the baby massage, which, yes, indeed. Yes, listeners, viewers. I I am a human design manifesting generator, so I do like to try different things. And they don't always fit me, in terms of longevity, but God, I did love it. And Begin with Elaine is still there and still selling courses. And I don't think it would be if I didn't have such a strong rebrand that really focused on the customers. So, you were dead right to go, hey, turquoise and flipping bright yellow, Elaine. Come on now. You know. But you did that gently. So thank you
Good,
so much.
good, good. Yeah, good.
Um, like I'm starting even just to see it in and hear it through talking to you. But tell me what part, just tell everybody else, what part of your business do you enjoy the most? Or is that like me asking you for your favorite child? Like,
No, I definitely have a favorite child in the business. I do love the consultancy side. I love the problem solving. So the beginning of projects, discovering what the issue is, as well as then untying the knot of what their brand's going to look like based on all these new found clicks that have happened and everything like that. And I think, I loved maths in school. I wasn't great at it, but I loved it for some reason. And it's the problem solving. I just love it, and people forget that branding and graphic design, it is very logical and it's rationale based, and I absolutely love that side of it. So um I like to come at everything with that logic and rationale. And if it doesn't have it, it doesn't fit. I'm very that's the way I'm built, but it makes sense for projects. And when things are logical, they have a place and they have a purpose, which I really like.
Fascinating. I love it. So let's just take a little detour for a second from your business, because I always think when I ask business owners this question, I get such varied answers. But who inspires you from a business perspective?
I think, when you have your own business, it's important to surround yourself with good communities, good business communities. And it's kind of simple, but when you see, particularly as a female entrepreneur, when you see another female entrepreneur doing well, it's you, I don't feel, well, how did she do that? I feel like, well, I can do that too, and I think that those little interactions and seeing different people speak who are doing really well, like all of those pieces come together to bring me forward. And certainly I get a lot from hearing successful entrepreneurs speak. And sometimes the more honest they are, the better, and you can actually learn from them. So like, not necessarily people in particular, but as a whole, if you see people doing well, even if you see people doing well in your industry, learn from them. Don't begrudge them. I just think that the better attitude is to learn from each other. And, I think that's the way I operate anyway. And that's how I keep being inspired and keep going. And they don't have to be, headline success. This can be like everyday success. And because I think there is a lot of pressure when you're an entrepreneur to be successful, and who is the most successful, and how do you manage success, and or not manage success, but track success and everything. And I just think being in business and staying in business is a huge achievement. We all know how difficult it is to be in business. So um sometimes it's the everyday heroes, I think, that can be inspiring as much as the stars.
So true. I was listening to a podcast recently with Denise Phil Thomas, and um, she said, just being an entrepreneur
Hmm.
is the like most unique experience in terms of dealing with your personal shit. you know,
Yeah,
like actually
yeah,
going, like working on your self-belief, working
yeah.
on your self-love. Because if
Hmm.
you don't have that,
Yeah,
then in terms of that rocky road, when you've to like, like be like a poker player and like hold your cards and hold your
yeah.
nerve till you just get whoop over the next bump,
Hmm.
and into the next, phase of your business or overcome a challenge or, deal with like your first piece of criticism or your first person who doesn't pay you or even like succeeding, like how do you deal with success, like do you hide your success, like for example, like I am always inspired and I see you like you were recently celebrating being part of that amazing calendar, your rationale for the number, it's
Hmm.
so good, to as an entrepreneur, notice, oh, okay, am I really celebrating myself enough, like you just said, in terms of like, just even sometimes the ordinary successes of like, have I billed everybody? Like,
Yeah,
or have I chased for payment? Like, do I back myself enough? And it's those battles sometimes that are fascinating. Like if you
yeah.
step back from them and you do a little bit of the inner gym work, so
The
yeah.
amount of people you get to meet, the amount of different people, stories. Like if you're in a job, you have to work with the same people all the time. Whereas every day, even in the office space I work in, there could be different people and it's like different conversations every day, and you just never know what you're going to talk about. So, I mean, I'm quite extrovert. So I like that. I can have my introvert moments where I just want to be left alone, but as a whole, I'm definitely extrovert. Um, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's great.
You're
Ironically,
definitely, you're
I'm quite
definitely.
introverted. Um,
I was gonna be sarcastic and say that
I
you're.
am. I know people don't actually believe that
Yeah.
because when they meet me, I'm so like razzle dazzle, but it actually depletes me. So I have to go afterwards and really and this is part of the journey. I've learned
Yeah.
to come back, and that's why I work online so much,
Mhm.
because an office space with lots of people constantly did not suit me. I much prefer getting that balance that now is possible, which is so good, like in many organizations that you have the hybrid approach now. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like so. Interesting. Tell me, what advice would you give a new business to increase their visibility? Because, like, goodness, like you have won some amount of awards. I'm going to
Mhm.
mention it in case you
Thank
don't.
you.
Um, as my daughter's recently started doing this to us, I'm like, where did you learn this? 7-year-old, like the mafia. I don't know. Um, so, but like, yeah, what would your advice be? Because you have done some amount of work and had some amount of success in terms of growing your visibility. So, was that a conscious thing? What should people do?
I think it's something you should always be working on. And it's not necessarily, ads every day. I don't do um social media ads, as in paid social media ads. I try to, I suppose, how to increase in visibility. I try to do it as authentically as possible, through networking and things like that, um, both digital, say LinkedIn, and in person. Um, but what I would say to increase your visibility, just like, the problem I mentioned before, if you want to increase your visibility, make sure you have all your ducks in a row first. So make sure that you're speaking authentically. Um, ensure that your brand is communicating with with your customer clearly. That you have a little bit of thought put behind your actions of what you're putting out there. Don't put something out there for the sake of it. Um, if you have method to the madness as such, I I believe in building things up authentically. It builds better community and builds stronger connections. But most of all, really consider who you're communicating with and look at it from their perspective. So if you were building an ad, say, to put out if your business was suitable for Valentine's Day, like really consider who wants to see it, what they want to see, and what will tempt them to click. It's psychology, but it's psychology everyone can participate in. Do you know what I mean? So it's really having your brand foundation solid and clear before you make any decisions, and that you're doing things with thought and strategy rather than for the sake of it. That's what I would say.
That is great advice. That is great advice. And I see it all the time. So I have the 5-star LinkedIn profile or my Let's Get Visible Society. And
Mm,
one of that pieces that is just always glaringly the issue is the clarity piece, the exact thing that you work with people on.
yeah.
It's the clarity piece, and also getting the language right or getting the visual right for your audience. Quite often people are speaking with their assumptions rather
Hmm.
than, as you said, logical fact, and really doing the groundwork in terms of getting that right. And look, fine, you can get going without it, if you're just one of those people. But as soon as you do exactly what you said, getting those ducks in a row, then the results you get back are just, yeah, they are so much greater. I've seen it myself because I'm quite an instinctive person. So
Hmm.
I've got to just get going. But as I've circled back around to just improve, 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 iterate, iterate, always better, so great advice. Speaking of advice,
Hmm.
what about you? What's the best advice that you've received? Or does anything stand out? And listen, if it doesn't, no worries, but do you have like a corker, a gem you
Like
can
I think
share?
like I don't know if I read this or heard this. I absorb a lot of information and talks and books. Um, but I think it's important to reflect on how far you've come. I think we can get like we're feeling in a rut. It's really important to reflect on how far you've come and actually, you know, maybe you haven't reached a certain bar because that bar keeps getting higher. Like each year I reflect on boundaries, I reflect on what kind of work that I want to do. And each year that sets things higher and it can make you feel like you're not getting anywhere, even though you are, even though you are. Um, and the second thing was take proper holidays, like schedule proper holidays, take time off. Nothing's going to shut down. The world's not going to end. You need a lot of energy to sustain growing and thriving business. And I know, I know now when to take time off. And it's pretty regular because, like you said, it depletes you when you're so involved. So reflect and take time off. And don't reflect while you take time off. Do them separately.
Yeah, because otherwise you're not taking time off,
No, no, no.
right?
I mean proper switch off, emails off, everything. Step away. Step away.
Yeah, good advice. Great advice. Oh, stop. That's just relaxed me for some strange reason.
Good.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's because we were looking at like where we're going on holidays over the weekends. I'm like, I can imagine myself.
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you promote your business?
Yeah. Like I was saying, it's mostly through authentic channels. So
Yeah.
mostly through networking, LinkedIn a lot. I do use LinkedIn. And I don't mean that I'm on LinkedIn every day purposefully, um, purposely networking. I'm just engaging with my network and seeing what they're doing and keeping up to date with that. Um, as well, I position myself as being a thought leader, make sure that you're, um, seen to be, I suppose, out there promoting your industry or etc. And also, I have a very ambitious but small podcast called Make or Elevate, um, which is in its infancy, but I think it's a good place for me to get more of that advice out to clients without them necessarily having to work with me. They can benefit from learning through those podcasts, and I suppose do the DIY version from that. But obviously, it does lead to people coming back and wanting to work with me, which is fantastic. So that's kind of it. It's all traditional methods, human methods, really, that I do. Yeah,
Lovely,
and entering
lovely.
awards and entering awards, which is important.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I'm going to definitely link to your podcast around this interview. Tell me, what's the dream for you in your business within the next year? Do you have one?
Um, I do, and it's probably been the dream since 2020. You know yourself, you get busy in your business. And it's to re-release my course. And this course is a tool for business to help them to, like I said, get those ducks in a row. So it's kind of like a starter course to the type of work that I do with clients. And it's a way of creating that brand clarity to build that foundation so that they can build upon that. So initially, that course was called Make or Elevate, and I decided to take that name for the podcast. So it currently doesn't have a name, but the course is built. So the idea is to get that back out. I think I talked about that course years ago with you, and you're
Yeah,
like, get it out there. So that's probably the dream, to get that live and to help people in more ways,
great.
and
That is a great dream and would help you build some passive income, which would be awesome, you know.
great. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, really good. And diversify your income is always a good play, you know. Great, great ambition. So that leads me to say, well, people could work with you by buying the course, and so you could just keep it the same name for now if you wanted to.
Good,
That's so
good.
just
Yeah,
try, dip your toe in the in Elaine's process of messy action is better than no action. Ooh,
yeah.
uncomfortable,
Well, currently it's no
uncomfortable.
action, so it's better. It's better that it's live. Better that it's out there in some form.
Yeah,
But yeah, I suppose the Maker website is makerdesign.ie. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find Maker on LinkedIn, and then through the Maker Elevate podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
amazing. And we shall populate the links. We shall populate. I'm always laughing at myself. I can't remember where people see the links. But anyway, I'm like a traffic controller. But they will be around. I will add them with the description. Um, later. And you'll be able to see how you can work with Kate. And if you didn't catch this live and you're watching playback, then you can catch it both like on all channels, but also on my blog. So I'll definitely make sure to share it there too, and all the links there. Kate, thank you so much. It's been so interesting to put your business under the spotlight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for having me.